Ladies and gentlemen, the webcast will now begin. Over to you, Jeff.
Thank you, Raven, and hello, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Metz, and I'll be your moderator for today's webcast titled Growing Revenue in 2025 Digital Transformation Secrets for Andrews FCU. This event is brought to you by Credit Union Times and sponsored by Blend. Before we begin, let's go over some basic housekeeping items about the webcast console. This event is completely interactive and features many customizable functions. Every window you currently see, from the slide window to the Q&A panel, can either be enlarged or collapsed, so if you'd like to change the look and feel of your console, go right ahead. If you have a question for one of our speakers, please enter it in the Q&A panel on your console. We'll ask as many questions as possible during the live Q&A at the end, so please ask away. If we don't get to your question, we do send these to our speakers after the event, so you may receive an email response. Also, there are some resources available, including today's slides, in the Resources tab, so please take a moment to download and review at your leisure. And now, let's get to today's topic and why you all are here. Credit unions tasked with undergoing a digital transformation have a daunting task, but it's also one their businesses need to future-proof their strategy, grow membership, and beat the competition with tech that can transform their members' lives. Here today to go over one such successful transformation is Marco Alvarez, SVP and Chief Retail Officer at Andrews Federal Credit Union, who will be joined by Karen Oakland, Head of Marketing for Blend, in conversation about Andrews FCU's experience and what other credit unions can learn and apply to their business to help their members. It's great to have you both. And Karen, I'll hand the presentation over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff, and thank you, Marco, for joining us. I think I'm really interested to hear more about how things have been going with Andrews this year and going into next. I wanted to start off, though, with a little bit of introduction for people who maybe had never heard of Blend before. So Blend really is a digital origination platform that our vision is to make it a lot easier for customers and members, in the case of credit unions, to apply for loans, to open accounts, and really do that across every channel that they interact with, whether that's mobile, online, or even in the branch. So just in terms of how we do that, thinking about the whole application process, everything from how you fill out that application and making that highly personalized and data-driven, all the way to things like identity and income verification, funding accounts, getting pre-approval, personalizing the offers, all the way through to close. And then we do that across all different types of consumer banking products, as well as mortgage. So here you can see, a lot of credit unions we know are in the vehicle space, but thinking about a single platform that can do that across deposits, credit cards, consumer loans, other types of products. And then just as a little bit of preview on what we're going to be talking about today in terms of our customers, we do work across regional banks and credit unions, the mortgage space, as I mentioned, as well as large banks, and really, really proud that 7 of the top 10 credit unions actually work with Blend and do a lot of volume of loans through Blend. So I had to give you a little bit of an introduction to who Blend is. And then, Marco, I would love for you to talk a little bit about Andrews and give people a little bit of set the stage for your scope of work and where Andrews is in your marketplace.
Thank you so much, Karen. Good day, everyone. It's good to be here. Thanks for the opportunity. What you see on the screen right here is a little bit as to what is Andrews Federal Credit Union. We were founded in 1948 by 8 original members who basically pledged $5 each. Many, many years later, we're now a worldwide financial institution with presence in many areas in the United States, primarily headquartered in Southern Maryland, serving the Southern Maryland market, Washington, D.C., Virginia, as well as New Jersey. And we also have presence overseas, taking care of our servicemen and women in many locations in central Germany, Belgium, and the Netherlands as well. Just to share with everyone, we're very happy and proud to have been recognized by Yahoo Finance as one of the top 10 best credit unions of 2025. And we were named in 2024 Army Credit Union of the Year. So that is a badge that we wear with a lot of honor. In addition to that, having been named a great place to work for since 2018 onward. So happy to be sharing the day with everyone who is joining this webinar. And back to you, Karen.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That congratulations on the recognition. Before we start talking about our agenda today, your role at Andrews, can you share a little bit about the scope and the types of projects that you look after?
Certainly. As the head of retail at Andrews, my responsibility expands to the brick and mortar locations. We are a credit union that actually has a number of locations throughout all the areas that we serve. In addition to that comes, the responsibility of ensuring a full, total positive member experience through the call center channels, through digital channels as well, digital onboarding, and overall just having the support and the sales and service culture ingrained into our staff to be able to deliver that ultimate member experience. So as far as top projects, really pushing for that digital transformation and the digital enhancement and investments that you're going to
Mhm.
hear me talk a little bit more in detail. That really is a big chunk of what I spend my time on. And at the same time,
Right.
really being able to develop the talent to have our members being taken care of when they either call, chat, visit one of our locations, or engage with us through social media as well.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I know that member experience is such a key priority for all credit unions, right? As you're competing with larger banks. So let's dive in and talk a little bit about some of the recent projects. We thought we would start out as we were talking earlier about what are you leaving behind in 2024 and what are you moving toward? When you think about leaving behind in 2024, I know that you embarked on a big project around deposits in particular and some of the other consumer products, making life a lot easier for customers. So would love to hear a little bit about that, but other types of things that you're thinking about from last year, really the change that you've been going through as the organization has evolved and moving toward digital transformation.
It really has evolved, Karen. I mean, this is something that we not only left behind in 2024, but maybe started a few years ago. And that is really understanding that the traditional ways in which members were transacting or just doing their business had evolved from a number of years to now. It's also important to recognize that we're now in a time in which financial institutions are undergoing, quite a lot of shift, and there is a rapid transformation to be able to deliver that member experience. And so, in many ways, what we did at Andrews over the last few years was really understanding that the traditional way of banking, in many ways, or members getting to their financial business, had to evolve. And so, we have, over the past few years, made a lot of investments into attracting technology and developing digital transformation initiatives to try to get that member to self-serve without losing that personal touch that we're always going to continue to give them. But in this case, it's going to be more of a self-service arena. If I may, some of the evolution, if you may, that we have done that started a few years ago was, for example, moving the ability for members to initiate direct deposit a lot easier from the mobile app, or for example, being able to have real-time alerts that actually empowers the member to have access to their transaction real time, what took place, but also helps mitigate and address potential fraud because they know now in what ways are their transactions happening and did I actually authorize this purchase, right? Did I complete this transaction? And because it is real time, it helps alert that member of that situation. So those are just some of the examples that we have invested on. P2P being another one. Very proud to have at Andrews the offering of being able to send money basically in real time from person to person, just from the convenience of that mobile bag, that digital banking space.
Right, right. And I remember in talking with you too, Andrews is such a unique organization in the sense that you also have a lot of members who are overseas, as well as families that are here. And I would think that that plays a really important role in the way you're thinking about self-service and being able to serve customers across 24/7, different countries. I was wondering if you could expand a little bit more about that.
We'll love to. We have members all over the world, and this is one of those recommendations that I would have for credit unions in the nation is to really stay curious and find out in what ways can you continue to elevate your service to your members. With us having servicemen and women deployed all over the world, it was very important for us to deliver a few things, right? So if somebody wanted to join Andrews, we wanted to make sure that that was an experience that was going to take them basically just minutes. We're looking and we're shooting for that 5-minute experience from beginning to end, including funding. And so going back to your first question, those are some of the things that we left behind in 2024. Long gone are the days in which members actually had to maybe have a legacy platform where the funding wasn't intuitive enough, and that became a hurdle for our members. And so we've transformed that experience to now where members, whether you're residing in Germany or maybe you're residing in the Northern Virginia or Maryland area, you can fund your account in just a matter of minutes from beginning to end. And then the other piece to your question about our servicemen and women and members overseas is being able to provide them with that same experience. So if they're in Germany and they want to send money to family and friends in the continental United States, they can do so. So trying to remove those barriers and really partnering with fintechs and other organizations that can help you do that will pay off in the long run. You'll see the short wins coming through early on from that member experience.
Right, right. It's so interesting in talking with you because it's not like people haven't been doing digital banking for years, but really digging into where do you have the friction points, like in payments, as you've been talking about, and figuring out, okay, there's a more seamless way to do that and a more personalized way to do that and meet the members where they are, right? I mean, that's kind of what you're talking about. I think the other thing I would love to hear a little bit more about, I know that you've been talking about more options for digital self-service, like for example, your chatbot, which has a name, right? Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Some of those other ways that members can engage with you that you've been implementing?
We'll be happy to. Her name is Mission. I invite everyone to meet Mission. You can find her at andrewsfcu.org. Mission is her own persona. We actually developed Mission because it actually ties into our tagline, always ready to serve, ready to solve. And that is really what Andrews is all about. So Mission is constantly learning. She understands the questions that members are asking her. So this is a little bit of the AI tie-in as well, right? That we're investing in 2025. So Mission will be able to answer things such as, how can I reorder a debit card? How do I place a stop payment? Can I make an appointment to see somebody at a time that is convenient for me? Take me there. What are your hours? What's your routing number? And things like that. So the ability to have that offering for our members was very important. Because as much as we want to be there and available as much as we want to, some members are going to need that 24/7 experience. And the Mission is there for that purpose. Now, of course, if you want to escalate that a little bit further, you can always, escalate that to a human being. While one of our many staff members will love to be able to take on that interaction. And that is another way that we've invested in the digital world. At the same time, that same agent can probably have and be manning 3 chat sessions at the same time. So from an economies of scale, there is also a plus in being able to have that digital investment to then see, in what ways can we take care of members in a way that actually is, empowering to both the member and the staff member as well.
Right, right. That makes a lot of sense. Well, I think that's a really good segue into kind of another area that we wanted to talk a little bit about in terms of your member demographics and the way that customers are engaging these days is really evolving. We all know that younger customers, younger members like to use mobile devices maybe more than older generations, things like that. So are there things that Andrew's doing in terms of your strategic planning to really think about the needs of younger members coming along or changing demographics?
That is a great question, Karen. 100%. I would say one of the pieces that is important for us is in 2025 and beyond is going to be growing that membership. And that means taking care of the generations that have gotten us to this point, right? So the baby boomers, the Gen Xers, even the millennials that have actually gotten us to the point that we're in right now, but also investing in those Gen Zs. These are the generations right now that they're putting their kids through school. They're maybe having their first loan experience at the same time. So being able to reach everyone. And so credit unions need to really be reactive and understand the markets that they operate on. At Andrews, we've made a conscious effort to really ingrain ourselves into the community, whether it be through community events, shred events, for example, at the same time, spending time developing financial literacy. And I'll tie this into one of our other initiatives, Karen, if I may, and that is really the push for social media as a
Mm.
angle, or rather an outlet for financial education. So in many ways, our social media channels really give us that feedback, because it's sort of a two-way street communication. The member can tag you in a question, they can expect an answer from you. So it is also a great way to really get to know the members that you serve in, because let's face it, it wasn't a too long ago when social media actually started taking over many of those informational outlets. And so members actually do want to spend those 15, 20 seconds
Right.
viewing a small clip to say, how do I improve my credit score? In what ways can I be financially savvy? And at the same time, what else is happening in my community? In the case of Andrews, is there an air show that I want to attend to in one of the bases that we
Right.
support, for example, right? So we use the social media channel, and then we tie mission, because primarily she'll be the one to deliver these messages to our members. And so really, it is not forgetting who brought us up to this point, continue to invest in developing those relationships, but also understanding that we have a responsibility to grow our membership with the younger generations as well.
Mhm. Right, right. No, it makes sense. And we know too, credit unions are competing with fintechs, the mobile apps and things like that. And really being able to be in that community, I can see how important that would be. I've seen things online like, nobody really knows what's going to happen with TikTok exactly, but that whole people looking on TikTok and social apps for financial advice is definitely a trend that we see. So I love that Anders is really digging into that and taking advantage of that, and like pulling through. I was looking at the Andrews LinkedIn page the other day, and the promotion of financial literacy. You can definitely see that in the content that the team is producing. When you think about anything else that you're putting together to really focus on being competitive, are there any other types of strategies or advice that you would have in terms of really competing with the mobile apps? And we've talked a little bit about incorporating more self-service, incorporating more education. Are there any other types of things that you're doing to make it more competitive? I would think time, speed, things like that.
It is. That is a great question. We understand that, and I'm sure this goes for all the other credit unions that are joining today. You've got to be nimble. You've got to be adaptable, because
Yeah.
technology that was relevant maybe 18 months ago is now evolving. And in many ways, we talked a little bit about the community presence, but there was one item that we were looking for, and that really was to sort of revolutionize the way in which we onboarded members and the ways that
Mhm.
members were able to join Andrews Federal. And that is what brought the partnership with Blend to light and make it a reality. So in a way, how are we staying competitive is really reading the landscape and understanding the markets that we're operating on. Don't forget about your community presence and really, growing roots where members work and live. But at the same time, what is keeping you from truly delivering that ultimate member experience? And in our case, it was that new account. Our new account process was one that will take many, many minutes. Sometimes the members weren't able to complete it full on from the get-go. And so we have done a total 180 with the Blend partnership, and we were very pleased with the results. I can tell you this, Karen, by the time we finished, and we implemented Blend in August of 2024 is when we went live. It was an out of the box, quick to deploy solution. We were very pleased with how fast this went, knowing that we're going to be investing in just tweaking it, right? Because ultimately you want to continue to evolve your channel. But we ended up 2024 with a 5% membership growth, and that is one metric that we take with
Mhm.
a lot of pride. And at a time in which I believe the average industry credit union industry was growing at about between 2.4 and 2.8%, being
Mhm.
able to answer that with an out of the box solution that brought us in a lot of those members. And what it allowed us to do was to look back and say, geez, how many members maybe we had lost through that funnel, right? Because they weren't able
Right.
to get that end-to-end experience. And hopefully now that won't be repeating itself, because now we have this channel that actually is going to be delivering that in a much faster way,
Mhm.
including funding, which was one that we wanted to highlight. That was one of the pivotal ways in which we stay competitive. At the same time, another metric that I can tell you that we chase is the active digital member channel. So through the integration with Blend, we were able to SSO or single sign on into the digital, download the app and download the mobile application and sign up. And so at this point, 83% of our members are able to get to that, not only join, but also download the mobile app and become active. And so that is one metric that we're very proud of as well.
Yeah, those are really amazing numbers. I mean, I have to underscore that 5% increase, like you said, almost double what we see from an industry average perspective. It's really remarkable. And so, we're really excited to hear those numbers and work with the Andrews team as far as that. And so this is another great segue. We were going to dive a little bit into technology, and you've talked a lot about how you've been working with Blend, but even taking a step back, if you think about the evolving role of technology basically in banking and some of the other areas that you've been investing from a technology standpoint to improve member experience, to improve efficiency and things like that. Are there other areas in terms of your digital journey that you're really looking at in 25, 26 and going forward?
Absolutely. One thing that I want to mention before is, as technology continues to evolve, and Andrews clearly is making a conscious effort to really dive into the technology evolution, we really can't lose sight that members are trusting us with their financial data. So as technology continues to evolve to support our goals, we also have the responsibility to assure our members that their data is protected. And so that will be one way that I would say that it's important for other organizations to really take the time to develop solutions, but also when you're speaking to fintechs, when you're speaking to other partners that you're looking to bring on board into your ecosystem, is truly to understand, do they have the cybersecurity solutions in place to be able to protect our members' data? Because that is the most precious. At the same time, I will say a number of initiatives on the technology that we've made clear and now they're a reality for us was that 90-second switch your direct deposit journey. So members can actually, when they become members of Andrews, they can initiate a switch of their payroll over and allocate it any way they want. At the same time, we live in a time and day in which the ability to have a presence in members' digital wallets becomes paramount. And so through the journey, we're also reaching out to members as part of our onboarding journey and letting them know that they can too place their Andrews debit or credit card as top of wallet. And that also means having the ability to, through a wizard that we've implemented in our technology platform, change that gym membership, maybe change that Netflix or subscription over to an Andrews preferred card in just a matter of minutes. So we've made that change as well. We're starting to see the results of those initiatives come through. At the same time, we do have real-time alerts. We mentioned this a little earlier on. It's really to protect the member, also to protect Andrews, and empowering the member to say, hey, I can do all of this from the convenience of my home or my job. I don't really need to step into one of Andrews's branches. But if I do step into one of our locations, know that all my questions are going to be answered and I'm going to be able to have more of a consultative approach to that. So.
Right. And I think you've mentioned too, when we were doing our pre-call about that omni-channel experience, like you were just saying, so it's consistent across digital and in the branch. And so the member can really feel assured, like they're not having to repeat themselves or they're not having to kind of have this disjointed experience, how important that is. And incorporating Mission, your chatbot as well, making that smarter over time, I'm sure will also be part of that better customer experience.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, so we've talked about technology. Talk a little bit about, and you did actually talk a lot about how you're measuring success. Certainly revenue growth would be a really big part of that. Looking at, I don't know if you're looking at anything like efficiencies, but I think we were talking a little bit as well about member experience and how you're measuring that. If you want to talk a little bit more about how you're looking at the success of your initiatives. Any other results that are worth highlighting?
Yeah, so we have a number of metrics that we call them KPIs at Andrews that we keep a close eye on. with regards to the member experience aspect of it. Membership growth is going to be one of the ones that we're keeping a close eye. At the same time, we are constantly meeting as an executive and management team to review our pricing offering, correct? I mean, we're in this role of growing deposits, and I think a lot of the audience members will maybe align with that, is you want to be able to stay competitive because ultimately deposits are what's going to fuel liquidity for lending opportunities and whatnot. So those are some of the other metrics: is how much direct deposit are we bringing in what ways are active members actually truly active. That means that they have direct deposit, the ability to complete a digital transaction, and then have that checking account. So that ultimately is what we would consider to be an active member here at Andrews. So those are some of the metrics that we have. At the same time, and none of this will be possible without a positive net promoter score. That really ties it all in for us at Andrews, Karen. We're very proud to have a very high net promoter over the last couple of years, with the highest one having resulted in 2024. Our transactional net promoter score is really high. Our branches net promoter score is also one that we take with a lot of pride, because ultimately that is what's going to give you those broken windows, right? What the member perceives as obstacles or hurdles, and reviewing those surveys, closing the loop, if you may, will allow us to then go ahead and say, okay, so we've heard 5 times now that this process takes longer, or wait time is an indicator. And so it allows us to then tweak our service model to address that without sacrificing security. In what ways can we make it easier for members to transact and do their day-to-day with us?
Right, right. And we talked a little bit about AI at the front as well, in terms of the customer experience in the chatbot and things like that. But I think you were saying there's some other ways that you're incorporating AI into the business. And then I'm thinking, as you're looking at measuring the output of that, there are some efficiency gains potentially. But are there other areas of AI that are sort of relevant talking about here that you're investing in?
Thanks for the question. Yeah, our AI policy is one that continues to evolve, and I'm sure it's going to continue for many of the other credit unions that are here, because it has to. We're just now seeing the results of AI. In addition to utilizing Mission for the, hey, I want to go ahead and sort of anticipate the question that the member is asking based on the keywords that they're typing and whatnot, and being able to deliver the right answer. That is one way that we're utilizing AI. Another one is really chasing, and this is a little bit more on the data analytics, being able to utilize a robust data analytics platform to read transactional data for our members, right? So we know where they're spending their money. We know how often does their payroll come through. But we also want to be able to say, are we at risk of losing some engaged members that maybe haven't really done a lot with us over the last 30 to 60 days? So being able to have that data analytics, pull that, and by identifying certain metrics, right? Debit card usage, maybe payroll stopped, et cetera. And so that is one way that we're sort of anticipating and then re-engaging those members through marketing messages as well. An email, a note saying, hey, we've noticed that this has stopped. In many ways, can we re-engage that member? Same thing with inactive accounts, so we don't want to get to members to get them through the achievement process, but in what ways can we recapture that experience early on, and then really ultimately retaining the book of business is important for us. We've spent time and resources to bring those members in through our doors, whether it be through a certificate of deposit special, maybe a loan special with a discount if they had a checking account or whatnot. So really utilizing data analytics and some of the AI components to retain those members in-house by having some of these wheels turning behind the scenes, and then just reaching out to those members based on the the algorithms and also the stages that we have set in place to retain that relationship.
Right. It's so amazing. I mean, everything has been changing so quickly in the past few years around the capabilities of AI. And I think as we talk to a lot of members, there's still this very early experimentation phase going on and taking use cases and taking pilots like this and really being able to demonstrate some really powerful results. So we're excited to work with our customers as well around how we can incorporate that more around things like document automation, more personalization, really all with the cert and the goal of improving that member experience and improving efficiency, and of course growing revenue. So that's always part of it. So super interesting conversation. I think every credit union out there can really relate to this whole idea. And the other thing I keep thinking as you're talking, I love that Mission is a female. I love that you've given her a personality and a character. That's just so fun.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about results. We talked about the growth in revenue. We've talked about training. We've talked about member engagement. I think, where I would love to sort of start to kind of get into how can really credit unions what can they take away from our conversation in terms of where they're going? And I love to just ask customers always kind of, what have you learned in the last year? And what lessons we started with, what are you leaving behind in 2024? But thinking about lessons learned and advice for the other credit unions out there, especially, again, a lot of people have implemented some digital technology, but it's like, how do you take it to the next level and really compete for business in your market? I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that.
Thank you for the opportunity. We've learned a number of lessons. We're continuously learning with technology, especially. I think I mentioned this a little early on, and I really cannot overemphasize this enough, and that is really protecting your members' data is it's not just a lesson learned, but it's also something that we take very seriously, especially nowadays. So what I would recommend is, if you're looking to improve your ultimate member experience, however you define it is based on your physical location, where you're headquartered, who do you serve in your communities and whatnot, is really to invest in partners that are going to be able to make you look better, that are going to actually enhance that ultimate member experience. But it starts with, do you possess the security measures in place, within your API and your connectors and whatnot, to be able to protect our members' data? So that would be the best thing that I would say. And then the next one is that comes to mind is really just removing some barriers for the member experience. We at Andrews have a broken windows task force. It's made by a number of leaders in many areas in the organization, and their role is on these bi-weekly meetings is just to go back to member relationship surveys, maybe go to Google reviews, Better Business Bureau reviews and whatnot. And what are the members telling us? What are they really telling us? And in what ways can we tweak things internally through service models, adapting maybe procedures or whatnot, without sacrificing security, to then be able to meet and provide that member with the ultimate member experience. So those are some of the things that come to mind. Some of these things are going to change over time. There is another piece that I want to touch base on, if I may. Traditionally, we've been always meant to ensure that certain metrics will be indicators of production and productivity, right? I can think of teller transactions are up. So if teller transactions are up, that means we're busy. That means we're taking care of more members, more checks per day, more cash running through the Fed and whatnot through your vault. Same thing with the contact center. Calls are up. That means that we're productive. We're actually serving more members. And well, that may have been the case, up until a couple of years ago. What we're finding, at least at Andrews, is some of those metrics are hitting a plateau. And in many cases, sometimes they actually dip a little bit. And while we have seen a 5% membership growth that is on the rise for us, what this really is telling us is that members are starting to really meet us on those self-service offerings. They're not shy to be able to pick up and chat with Mission. They're not shy to be able to figure things out with the mobile app and sending secure messages and whatnot, setting those account alerts on their own. The blend journey that we onboarded our members with, that whole end-to-end, makes it very easy for members to then go ahead and single sign on to their digital mobile app. And so if we're seeing calls that maybe are plateauing, or maybe teller transactions are not spiking with the ways that we used to see them prior to the pandemic, for example, right now we're okay with it, because we're seeing the other self-service channels actually move up. We see the chats taken care of by Mission. We see the chats taken care of by our staff. We see the number of P2P transactions going up. We see the number of just overall self-service technology increasing. And so those are good indicators. So you have to find a balance between what would you traditionally measure before as a KPI to those that are taking place right now with the technological evolution.
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely think that you'd want some decrease in the call center volume because those could be expensive resources. And I think you've talked as well about in the branch, you want the people there to actually be working on harder problems or really delivering that higher level of service than somebody might want just from being able to take care of something on a self-service basis. So I think that's really important for people to think about, like you said, transforming the way that you're looking at the metrics in your business to really look at more of that digital side. Looking at wallet share, of course, looking at how many products they have, how fast can problems get solved too in through customer service. So that makes a lot of sense. I think that the partnership with companies like Blend too, from the standpoint of our business, is being able to partner with you in those engagements and really look at like where are the friction points so that we can continue to innovate and build out technology that supports what you're doing as well. So that's something we take a lot of pride in as well. I think, yeah, I think the wrapping up sort of what's next for Andrews, when you think about, again, I'm sure you've got some 2-year plans, 5-year plans, things like that, that some of that you may or may not want to share, but things that you can share in terms of you're looking forward. What's on the horizon for Andrews?
Thank you for the opportunity, Karen. What's next for us, and this is a long-term plan for us, is really growing the membership. We've seen the results of that great partnership that we were just talking about through Blend, but also growing relationships, growing the active membership. At the same time, maintain and keep those relationships that we've spent so much effort developing over the years, right? And not let those relationships just walk away because of 10 or 15 basis points, right? So being able to identify in what ways can we keep that member loyal. Our ultimate mission is really to develop member loyalty, and we're doing this by truly investing in this digital transformation that started a number of years ago here for us at Andrews, that is really not stopping. Blend is the beginning of this partnership on the new account opening, but we're also making investments in self-service technology, in digital banking support, in the lending support as well. And so in many ways, that is what's next for us, is growing and maintaining relationships with our members, not abandoning the communities, but rather investing in the communities, leverage the social media push that we have in the presence, in all the other channels, the social media channels, your Instagrams, your Facebooks and whatnot, but also knowing and letting others know of what Andrews is doing on the LinkedIn side, right? From a professional services, in what ways are we also growing and having an outreach to our communities? Lastly, I would say really reading those service scores. That is something that we take very seriously as well, and have a dedicated group of people that can extract themes from it, as I mentioned before, and being able to put those into actions, right? So if members are struggling with completing XYZ, how can we deliver so that in a couple of months we can actually champion that request and then move on to other things? Also, we're very curious, so our curiosity is going to continue to expand in 2025, 2026 and beyond, because we want to stay very nimble, very much current with what's going on in the time. So our desire is really to grow as our membership continues to develop. And that is pretty much all I wanted to say as far as what is next for us here at Andrews.
Right. I love that as a company value, stay curious. It's important for all of us, right? It's that we talked about, there's so much change going on, and really being able to be open and experiment with new ways of doing things. It's an exciting time in the banking industry. And yeah, so I definitely want to thank you for all the time. I know we have a couple of questions I'm seeing come through in the chat. And as we've mentioned, there's some resources on the console. We certainly really value your time and working with you as a customer. We've got some additional case studies and customer stories available on the website. But I would love to see what kind of questions, Jeff, that we may have seen in the portal. And just, again, want to say thank you to Marco for joining us.
Yep. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Marco, as well. We have gotten to our question and answer portion of this event. If you do have a question for one of our two speakers, please enter it in the Q&A console or panel on your console. I think we have about time for 2 questions here, but we'll try to get as many as we can. And remember, if we don't get to these during this live Q&A, you may receive an email response after the event. We do send these over to our speakers. So the first one I have, it's for Karen here. What are some key metrics that credit unions should be tracking to measure the success of their digital transformation initiatives? What experience does Blend have with other clients on monitoring and analyzing these metrics as well?
Yeah, I think ROI, there's so many ways to unpack what that looks like. And today we've talked with Marco a little bit about some of those, like increase in deposit growth was a really big one, looking at customer NPS scores, net promoter scores, customer sat scores. But when you think about account opening and onboarding, some of the real fundamental ones that he talked about with the broken windows program for Andrews, but really thinking about like abandonment, where things are abandoned, what's the completion rate on a form. It could be funding of that account. So you've opened the account, but you haven't funded it. So we looked at metrics like that. Call volume to a call center where people maybe got stuck in a process and they needed help. So what % of applications go through on a self-serve basis? So those are just some examples of that, but we really like to look at where are those friction points along an onboarding process, and the conversion rates and abandonment rates would be the flip side of that, right? How many are we getting completed? How many are we getting funded? Those are really big ones that we look at. And then there's certainly metrics like efficiency, internal efficiency, staff volumes. There's things like that we're looking at around use of AI. Can we get things done? And then the last one I would say we often talk a lot about is time to market. So how fast can we implement the technology, certainly, but also how quickly can we make a change? So if there's like a regulatory change, or there's a new document, or there's some other sort of business process that we've changed, how easy or hard is it to update the process and the systems in order to do that? So I think those are really important things on the back end to look at from an operational efficiency and agility standpoint. And Marco, those sound like you're nodding, so I'm guessing those are resonating with metrics that you look at as well.
They're perfectly aligned.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I saw you nodding your head there, Marco. I was going to ask you if you had anything else to contribute, but it sounds like we're in alignment here.
Yeah.
So for Marco, for companies struggling to get executive approval for digital projects like yours, do you have any advice on building the business case? How do you get over internal resistance to the changes?
Great question there, Jeff. I would say the most important thing is really it's what is your strategy plan, right? So many of us have a board of directors that actually help say, hey, we have a 3 to 5 year strategic plan, and management will look to make that a reality. So if your strategic plans calls for an enhancement or a tie-in to digital technology investments, I would say look into your strategic plan and then reach out to a partner that can give you solid references. We did this in the journey of finding the Blend partnership. Blend was able to give us a number of references that we were able to use. And when they're not in the room, right? Because that's when you really can have those very honest conversations with those partners, or those references rather, is being able to ask, how easy was it? Is it really an out-of-the-box solutions like they paint it to be? And what were the first struggles of the first 90 days, and how has it changed over time? So when you have those questions answered, it's easier for you to then go back to your executive suite, to your C-suite, and be able to say, this company that has a similar makeup to us went through the same struggles, but they're able to now say that it actually paid off in the long end. And to Karen's point about ROI, that is actually where you can start seeing the investments. So they'll say, hey, buckle down for the first 90 days, but then after 6 months, you're going to start seeing that ROI, because that's when you're going to truly start seeing that members are not abandoning the application, that the funnel that was maybe wide before is actually closing in, because those members are not leaving your portal anymore. They're actually completing that application. And for those that are leaving the application, use your own analytics to be able to then chase those members who may have abandoned for one way or the other. So those are the ways that I would say to make your case. Find it in your strategic plan. Secondly, look for your references and be able to show in what ways can you actually have that ROI come back to you, to be able to convince them that this is really the way to go. Because ultimately you want to be able to stay competitive, correct? So this is probably the recommendation that I would have.
Right. I think often too, boards they're really attracted to revenue, and so we didn't talk a lot here about cross sell, but the opportunity to work across. They have a deposit, sell, get them a credit card, get them a consumer loan. Really being able to support that member and be able to show the lift in cross sell revenue as well, I think is also an important metric that we've seen with some of our customers, thinking about having a single platform that incorporates the ability to support all of those different products versus just a single siloed product. So yeah, now it makes a lot of sense. And I think we're seeing more and more of boards really putting pressure on companies around digital engagement. How are we supporting customers across both digital and in the branch? So I think Andrews is a really great example of that.
Thank you.
Great. Well, I want to thank everybody in the audience for joining us, and we hope this was valuable to you. Big special thanks to Marco and Karen for their time and insights, and Blend for their support. If you missed any part of this presentation, this webcast will be archived at cutimes.com/webcast, so you can view it again or refer it to someone else. You can also explore other upcoming and on-demand presentations while you're there. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you, Marco. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Marco.